Welcome to the Insomnia Project. Sit back, relax, and listen as we have a conversation about the mundane. One thing that we can promise is that our conversation will be less than fascinating, so that you can feel free to drift off. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you will listen and sleep. I'm your host, Marco Timpano.
And I'm your co-host, Nidhi Khanna.
And Nidhi, I think we should talk about political processes.
Ah, yes, Marco. Now, politically, we have three, I think, main bodies of government in Canada, right? You have the municipal government,
the provincial government,
and then, of course,
the
federal government. Do you know anything about political processes within these three areas?
I don't know very much on that front. I know that decisions that are made by our politicians can have outcomes that affect individuals like me, and where you can't always be up on everything that goes before whichever council. For example, I recently went to fight a parking ticket that I had received to find out that the municipal politicians had decided that you can no longer fight a parking ticket and have the justice of the peace reduce the amount of the fine, so that if you were to plead guilty, you would be paying the same amount that you would that appears on your ticket, in order to discourage people like myself or yourself to go to court to fight the ticket. So you can fight and say not guilty, but the chances of you getting off, if the officer is there, are very slim. And previously you could plead guilty, but depending on the circumstances, because everybody has, or many people have, a circumstance where they could be parking in a situation where they didn't get to the meter for whatever reason, or they parked in a zone that they weren't aware was a non-parking zone. You could plead your case to the justice of the peace, and they could determine whether or not that fine should be reduced, or if that ticket should be thrown out of court. But thanks to the municipal politicians who wanted to do a cash grab in our city of Toronto, they have not allowed citizens like myself to appear in front of a justice of the peace and plead my case. So, needless to say, I wasn't pleased.
I can see that it's a bit of a sore spot for you.
It certainly is. $30 later for a ticket that I received.
I know that there are a lot of different committees and places, or not places really, I guess just committees. I was going to say groups, but it really is committees of council.
Sure.
And each committee either has city councillors on it and citizen members, or in the case of like a committee of adjustment, it has, I think, only citizen members. So committee of adjustment, Marco, I think you told us a story on a previous episode about you going to committee of adjustment or a town hall or something like that. But committee of adjustment is where you can go and plead your case about if you want some sort of change or renovation done to the structure of your home.
I see.
So let's say you wanted to add a story to your home, or
an addition,
or if you wanted to make your driveway bigger, you would have to, if it was denied for any reason, you would have to go to committee of adjustment and ask for permission to do that.
I see.
And that can be a very long process in terms of the number of people who go and ask for variances to their property, for example. But I know city councils really do have a multitude of different committees that deal with everything from diversity and inclusion, for example,
Okay.
to budget, to even advertising standards.
I see.
So there's a committee in City Hall for many, many different things. And again, some of these committees you can actually apply to be a citizen member of
Oh,
and play a role in the decisions that are made at these committees, and ultimately the recommendations that are determined at the committee level then go up to City Council,
I wonder
where it's voted on.
if there could be a committee on parking tickets that I, as a citizen, could be on with, let's say, a citizen who's like-minded with me, in this case, my wife, or my best friend Jeff, or, people, my neighbor on the left side of me, even though she doesn't drive a car, is sympathetic to my car needs, and we could talk about what we want with regards to parking violations in the city. It's always disheartening when you go to a meter that is busted and you want to use your credit card to put a parking ticket on your car, and you cannot do so, but you need to park in that area because you have an appointment, whether it be a medical appointment or a work-related appointment, and you cannot put a parking ticket on your car.
You mean the right, so you can't pay for your parking.
Parking, that's what I meant, thank you. And then you receive a parking ticket from a perhaps lovely meter officer. I don't like to use the word meter maid because it's just gender, and there's a lot of different people who work in that job. But that's a committee that I certainly would welcome to be on and voice my
opinion. Well, I'm trying to see what type of committee, that type of issue would be dealt with in which committee. And,
Sure.
I'm looking here, and I'm thinking that maybe something in the licensing and standards committee.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That sounds fair.
There's so many different committees in a city council that it's really difficult to figure out which one would actually pertain to parking issues.
Fair. Tell me about a moment where you were around such a committee, or you may have heard how they vocalized their opinions.
I am... that's a good question, Marco.
Like, have you ever been around committees where people have had to sort of voice their opinion, or seen them maybe? Have you ever seen on television C-SPAN?
Oh, yes, of course.
Where citizens want to speak their mind with regards to certain situations. I know that I would love to be able to speak with regards to the naming of streets and parks and whatnot, because I feel like a lot of times they get named after political figures, and I feel like that shouldn't be the case, because politicians, that's your job. It doesn't mean you deserve to have something named after yourself because you do your job, because if that was the case, then you would think schools would be named after a teacher who taught there, or hospitals named after a doctor who worked there.
Right. It's almost like you're right, that's your job, so why should it be that way?
Warrant you having public recognition for something you're paid to do.
You never see, well, maybe you do, like, you never really see Mother Teresa Lane Or
No, I think you will see it, and that's my point. Actually, you're making my point. It should go to someone who accomplished something. So you
exactly.
could be a politician who accomplished something great, and not merely because you were in politics for many years, but because you did something that affected a large number of people in a positive way, and you'll be remembered. Mother Teresa, perhaps a author, Margaret
Sure.
Atwood Lane,
Sure, I like
and
that.
certainly
Do you think there would be a Marco Timpano? Would you be a street, an avenue?
I'd be a boulevard.
You'd be a boulevard.
Yeah, I think I'd be a boulevard. How about you? A Nidhi Khanna way, a Nidhi Khanna crescent?
I think crescent.
A crescent?
I think.
I see it as a terrace. Nidhi Khanna
Oh,
terrace.
I
That's
like
where
that.
I'd like to go. Now, let's talk about store signs.
Yes.
What strikes you when you see a store sign?
I think a good store sign is clean. Like there's a, and when I mean clean, it's the font size, the design of the
Sure.
font. It's easily legible. I like it to be modern. I like it so. I don't particularly like signs that you can tell have been there since the 60s,
Right.
and the sign has never changed for whatever reason. There is a store in Toronto called Honest Ed's
Yes.
that has
Sadly,
yes, and sadly it's going to be knocked down. However, it has huge signs and very, very
garish.
garish and well-known, faint. Like it's almost it is a landmark.
It's a landmark for certain, and I think the fact that it had a lot of not neon lights but actual light bulbs that would illuminate the signage, and it had a lot of sort of in-your-face kind of
verbiage in the
verbiage and
signs.
it's something that was sort of a landmark in the city. I have to say that the signs that I love the most are actually ghost signs. Are you familiar with ghost signs?
No, what are those?
So a ghost sign is a sign that was, let's say, painted on a wall many, many years ago,
Okay.
and then they had, let's say, papered signs on top of it and papered signs on top of it, and then those papered signs come off, and what's remaining but the original ghost sign? Or perhaps it was obstructed by another building that was built years later, and that building gets torn down, and then you see the sign that was once there back in the 1900s or the 1930s
Oh,
or the
wow.
1960s. And so these ghost signs will appear, and they'll be for products that you've never really heard of or are out of existence and whatnot. So I know that there was a ghost sign not too far from here for, I want to say, Birmingham cigarettes.
Oh.
And you'll see these ghost signs as more buildings get torn down or modernized or restructured. These ghost signs will appear, and so it's really quite an interesting thing. So I've always been fascinated by ghost signs, but unlike yourself, I love a sign that's old, that has remained, and might have incongruent messaging. For example, there was two signs in particular that I loved in Toronto that are no longer. One was for a old porno theater called the Metro Porno Theater that is now being made into a climbing gym. But you could see that this was a porno theater from the I want to say 60s, because it had a woman in a bikini that was kind of painted on the glass sign, and she had like an odd look on her face. It was supposed to be, I guess, sexy, but it certainly wasn't. But it was just an interesting sign that always struck me. And the other sign was for Mama's Bakery, and Mama's Bakery had a woman in a kimono holding bread in her hand as she bowed, which seemed very odd.
That is quite incongruous, as you say.
And I just love those old signs that have, interesting
Character
to them.
I like those on actual signs, but
Okay.
I guess when I meant modern and font, when I was thinking about that, I was talking about storefronts. So being able to actually read the sign on the top of a store versus signs that you might find as advertising or things like that.
How do you feel about neon signs?
If it's done right, it could be fun.
See, I like it if it's done wrong, because then it's even more fun. When a sign is meant to portray something but rather doesn't and fails, a sign fail, if you will.
Sure. I feel like Las Vegas is one big sign fail.
Well, you can go to the Las Vegas sign, I think it's called Sign Graveyard, and it has in it all the old casinos that are no longer they're old neon and dramatic signs, and it has like the Lady Slipper, I believe, and there was a giant cowboy that was there, and you can walk amongst the neon sign graveyard, or the outdoor sign sort of museum, I guess, I don't know, for lack of a better term of it, and you could see the various old signs that are just kind of sitting there. The Stardust, I think, is one.
I think it's called the Neon Museum, Marco. And it's a place for collecting, preserving all the old Los Angeles signs.
Las Vegas
signs, sorry, thank you.
I think there's one in Los Angeles too,
I'm sure there is.
Taste the Mediterranean at Whole Foods Market with a vibrant selection that captures the flavors of the region. Shop coastal favorites like responsibly farmed whole bronzini and jumbo white shrimp, and pair them with specialty pastas, robust olive oils, and aromatic sauces directly sourced from the Mediterranean. Want a fast and easy dinner? Grab refreshing Greek salads and tortellini from the prepared foods department. Taste the Mediterranean now at Whole Foods Market.
Carvana's so easy, just a click, and we've got ourselves a car. See?
So many cars. That's a click-tastic inventory.
And check out the financing options. Payments to fit our budget. I mean, that's...
Clickonomics 101.
Delivery to our door?
Just a hop, skip, and a click away.
And what?
No better feeling than when everything just...
clicks.
Buy your car today on...
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
You know what they say. Early bird gets the ultimate vacation home. Book early and save over $120 with Vrbo. Because early gets you closer to the action. Whether it's waves lapping at the shore or snoozing in a hammock that overlooks, well, whatever you want it to. So you can all enjoy the payoff come summer with Vrbo's early booking deals. Rise and shine. Average savings $141. Select homes only.
Have you ever been there?
No, but every time I go to Vegas, that's one of the places that I want to go to that I never get a chance to see for some reason, because I don't think you have to sort of drive there. I don't think it's right on the strip.
Right.
So it's one of those things that it's always like, I mean to go, and we end up watching a show, or we end up going to a restaurant instead.
Sure.
But the next time I go to Vegas, and perhaps the Neon Museum will fly us there, you and I, so that we can record a podcast amongst the various signage that's there. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Boneyard,
The Boneyard,
as it's
if you will.
called.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Yes,
Oh,
the
that's
Boneyard.
great. The Boneyard. Nidhi, I find that people who don't have an interest to go to Las Vegas, and I'm sorry to interrupt,
No, that's okay.
are the ones who end up loving it more.
It's funny you say that, because I have a feeling that could very well be me.
Mm-hmm. But you're not a gambler, right?
I'm not a gambler, but I am into shows. And
Are you a fan of Kenny Rogers? the gambler, if you will?
I can't say that I am particularly a fan.
Okay.
However, I'm not a hater either. So.
Do you know when to hold them and know when to fold them? Know when to walk away and know when to run?
That I can say, Marco, definitely. I know.
Well, then you would fare very well in Las Vegas, I will say. But it would be a lot of fun to go to the, is it the Neon Sign Museum or the...
Yes, that's what it's called. And Marco, actually, I found the ghost sign that you were talking about earlier in the podcast.
I think it was cigarettes, right?
Buckingham cigarettes.
Oh, yeah, I think it's at Birmingham. So Buckingham cigarettes,
yes, and we'll post a photo of that on our Twitter at Listen and Sleep.
Yeah, if you'd like to check out our Twitter, follow us at Listen and Sleep, and subscribe to this podcast. It'll help you relax. At the very least, Nidhi, it's interesting. Remember how we said that this podcast, while its intention is to help people who have insomnia or people who fall asleep, we're finding that a lot of people are listening to it for different reasons. Mm-hmm. A good friend of mine, Zach, had said that his girlfriend had a bad hangover, and so to help her get over that hangover and relax in bed, he put our podcast on so that she could listen and sleep and get over her hangover. So
did it work?
I'm not saying that this podcast is a cure for hangovers. Sounds like I have one, but it certainly can hurt.
Marco, that's a wonderful use of our podcast, I think. I'm really excited to hear that, and I hope that anytime anyone has a hangover, that listening to us would help them be cured of that. How would you know?
It's interesting. We would have to think of a term, because I know that the hair of the dog is a term that they use for a drink that you would have to help you with a hangover. We would have to be, if that's the hair of the dog, I think our podcast would be the snout of the dog. And so we'd be the other end, where you don't have to take a concoction for the hair of the dog. I don't know exactly what it would be, what the hair of the dog is, but
well, I think it's any libation that you might consume
to help you get over the hangover.
Right, but it has to be an alcoholic beverage, right?
So whereas we're not a libation, we would be a auditory sort of assistance for a hangover. We would be the snout of the dog. Oh. Perhaps the ears of the dog, but I like the word snout better.
Snout is a good word, Marco.
The snout of a pig and the snout of the dog help them find truffles. Oftentimes truffle hunters will use dogs and pigs to help them find truffles, and it's because they have a very sensitive snout that they're able to find the scent of the truffle.
For dogs, the scent, like their sense of smell is their primary sense, whereas for us it's more, I think, the eyes. For dogs, like my dog, it's all about the scent first. So if a dog is healthy, they will always sniff. Sometimes you can even see them sniff the air.
Right.
Before you even know what's going on, they're sniffing the air. So
it's interesting. A dog's nose, when they're healthy, is really cold to the touch, right?
It is. And wet.
Whereas when our noses are wet,
it's a whole other...
It's a different thing altogether, right?
It's true. It's very true.
I read something that said that a mother can tell their baby by the scent, and like a newborn baby, like a few days old, the mother was given different babies, and blindfolded, she was able to tell her baby based on the scent. I know for my niece, they did something interesting at her school when it was a parent-teacher night. My sister went to the school, with her husband, so my brother-in-law and my sister went to the school, and they showed photos of all the children's hands to see if the parents, I think it was just a fun little exercise, to see if the parents could pick out the hands of their children.
Now, did your sister get it right?
My sister did, but my brother-in-law did not. So it's just, and my sister said, she said, it was obvious to me. Those were my daughter's hands. So it's just interesting, my sister's sort of sense of humor and the way she dealt with that was quite funny.
And you're very close to your niece, so do you think you would be able to pick out her hands?
I think so. It's interesting. As you know, I'm a hand model, so hands are something that
exactly.
I notice. I actually will notice when a person has nice hands,
right,
and when a person does not have nice hands,
right.
Or I'll notice if the hand has a wart or a callus or a scar.
That's true, because I recently had an injury on my hand.
Oh my goodness!
And you noticed it.
Oh, I see. See,
I remember that.
It's a weird sort of thing that just comes into my consciousness, I guess. Speaking of consciousness, is that the correct term?
Consciousnesses? I don't know. Consciousnesses or consciousness?
Or just the
conscious?
You know, there's words that are singular and plural,
yes.
all in the same, like fish, one fish, or many fish.
Oh yeah.
Or
fishes,
shrimp.
Fish.
Yeah, fishes isn't or shrimp.
Right.
One shrimp or
right.
many shrimp.
Sheep.
Oh, a flock of sheep versus a
There's no
single,
such thing as sheeps.
No, I didn't know that. Well, we hope you're counting sheeps at this point, and you've been listening to the Insomnia Project with us.
Or at least that we've alleviated you from having to count
Fair.
sheep. Sheep. As always, we are broadcasting from Toronto, and the Insomnia Project is produced by Drumcast Productions. Until the next time, we hope you listen and sleep.